Okay, everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started. Unfortunately, Miss Adewale threw out her back this morning, and so she wasn't able to make it, and she sends her sincerest apologies to everyone. So, but we still have a dynamic duo here on this panel, and we're so excited to welcome them. I am not going to introduce them. I am so excited that I'm going to have our students are going to participate in welcoming you all here and introducing our panelists. Before we do that, I'm going to introduce our campus president, Dr. Elizabeth Perkins, who has an announcement for us and who wants to welcome you all. So let's receive her, please.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me today. I'd also like to thank Professor Wilson for putting this event together. She has been instrumental in helping me coordinate events for African American History Month all month. So can we thank Professor Wilson for all of her work for this and for everything? I know you all just love and adore her. She's a very beloved member of the Flo Valley family, so thank you so much. And I also wanted to let you know that one of the events that we have for African American History Month, or it's called a Walk Among Legends. How many of you have done the tour already? Just two. Okay, so we have a tour sheet that's available, and if you go to the different buildings, you get to learn about different inspiring African Americans throughout history. And when you turn that sheet back in to either my office or the Vice President's office, they're both in the near financial aid in the administration building, just on the other side of the building, you'll get a prize. So we have 6 bonus prizes left for the first 50 folks that want to turn it in. We know that the weather caused some delays, and so we wanted to extend it. The due date was supposed to be today, but we're going to extend it through Friday. And so if you want to turn your tour sheet in, you can go ahead and turn that into my office by Friday or to the Vice President's office, and we have some cool prizes for you all, including snacks. So I know people like snacks. So make sure you get those in. Thank you for participating. Thank you to our campus departments who put them together because I think that the displays are really exceptional. So please check them out, engage with that, get some free stuff. Thank you for being here today. Thanks for allowing me a minute. And we'll turn it back over now to Professor Wilson.
All right, you guys go get you some knowledge and some gifts. How about that? Okay, so I am going to just simply thank all of you for either being here and tuning in. And I also want to thank our panelists for being here today. We're going to hear about their journey and learn from their wisdom. And so without further ado, I'm going to introduce China Buckner to introduce our panelists. Let's receive her.
Ms. Ella Jones has a rich heritage in service to the Lord, the church, and the community. She is a proven leader with the skills, compassion, and commitment to improve the quality of life for all residents. Ella Jones and her late ex-husband, Tim, moved to Ferguson in search of a quality educational opportunity for their daughter, and she has been a resident for more than 40 years. Ella graduated from the University of Missouri in St. Louis with a Bachelor of Arts degree in chemistry. She was certified by the American Chemical Society as a high-pressure liquid chromatographer and completed training as a pharmacy technician. Ella's previous employer include Washington University School of Medicine in the Biochemistry Molecular Biophysics Department as a peptide specialist and KV Pharmaceutical Company as an analytical chemist. Ella's fate is the root of her compassion for people. Her grandparents, Lester and Ruth Ixano, were instrumental in establishing an African Methodist Episcopal Church in the city of New Orleans, Louisiana. She was ordained an itinerant elder where she started as a pastor of serving several congregations. In October 1998, Ella Jones and her family stepped from complacency to action with the group of believers and organized Holy Trinity, abbreviated AME mission. Ella's business experience and her career in ministry provides a fertile foundation for her current career in public service. After 30 years of being a Mary Kay sales director and 22 years of a pastor, Ella transitioned to work full-time in the community. Her victory made history as she became the first African-American to serve on the council. Ella's strong vision and ability to build coalitions has resulted in more than $8 million in investment for our city. Ella secured $4.7 million through a federal grant to serve the need for our youth. Ella was elected as the first woman and American African woman as the mayor on June 2nd, 2020 in the city of Ferguson. She was the 12th mayor of the city of Ferguson. Ella founded an annual Unity Weekend, which provides school supplies and support services to families with children attending schools in districts serving Ferguson. Most recently, Ms. Ella joined the panelists for the Southern Illinois University at Edwardsville, Visibly Invisible. It's a socio-political reality of Black women. She also appeared with County Executive Dr. Sam Page to give remarks for the opening of the first vaccine site in North St. Louis at Flo Valley College. And she is a recipient of the NAACP Trailblazer Award, as well as a list of other things. Ms. Jennifer Curtis is an executive director, head of rural operations with LLC, Rabo Agrifinance, leading an organization with over 150 team members. Jennifer joined Rabo Agrifinance in January 2020 after being with her prior employee, Citibank, for 20 years. Jennifer received her associate's in art degree from Florissant Valley Community College and her bachelor's in communication from University of Missouri in St. Louis. As a native of St. Louis, Jennifer was employed full-time while attending school part-time to reach her educational goal. Jennifer began her role to senior leadership as a collections call center agent with one of the top 5 banking companies in the United States. And with over 17 years of experience in the operations management and 24 years within the financial service industry, Ms. Curtis is also a supporter of the nonprofit organization. Jennifer is intentional about giving back to her community and has served on a nonprofit board director as a member of the youth through various St. Louis organizations. And in her spare time, Ms. Jennifer considers herself a foodie and spends time exploring new restaurants and writing reviews along with traveling and shopping.
All right, let's receive our panel again. Let's give them a real warm welcoming. Thank you, Mayor Ella Jones, for being here. Why don't you wave just to make sure? And thank you, Jennifer Curtis, for being here. And I also want to highlight that both of them are Florissant Valley alumni. Let's give them a hand for that. Okay, so now we're going to start our questions. And so I'm going to welcome Maya Grover to lead us in that discussion.
Hi, the first question was basically, let's talk about hair. How do you determine appropriate hair for work?
Well, what's appropriate is defined differently for different people. So braids at one time was unappropriate for people to go to the workplace. And one of my girlfriends, she had her hair braided up, and she was working at a hospital. I'm not gonna call a hospital name. And when she got into work that morning, her supervisor came to her and told her that it was inappropriate for her to have braids in her hair, and she was a receptionist. And they instructed her to go get her hair taken down. And she refused because she had just paid $200 to get her hair braided. And now you're gonna tell me, that I can't wear it. So after much debate, the hospital changed their policy as to whatever a person express as their authentic self. Their hair is an expression of who they are. As far as being a mayor, I wear my hair different ways. You know, some people recognize it. One lady said, "Oh, the mayor changed her hairstyle." Yeah, I changed my hairstyle a lot, simply because I'm not always in the same mood all the time. If I want to get fluffy, I get fluffy. If I want to get straight, I get straight. So I think, personally, this is my opinion, if you want to express yourself and it's your authentic self and you express it with your hair, I don't see anything wrong with it. I don't see any problems with braids. I don't see any problem with straight hair. I don't see any problem with color, because I know one young lady, her hair is purple, but it's the way in which it is styled, and it's styled professionally. I don't have any problems with hairdos.
Yeah, so I'll add on to that, because I've spent my career in a corporate setting, and I will admit that it is a little bit different. While everyone is encouraged to be their authentic selves, and you do have to think about the corporate culture of the environment that you're working in, some environments are a little more restrictive with their corporate culture, and others are more relaxed. I will say that during my years in the corporate space, I tended to stay a little more conservative with my hairstyles. I always wore short hair ever since high school, and I did have hair color throughout the years, depending on my position. As I transitioned more into a leadership role, I tend to stay more with a conservative approach. And the reason for that is just because my environment takes me in front of different clients, different customers, different corporate spaces. So my advice is to think about the corporate setting that you're in and think about the corporate culture. You absolutely want to be your authentic self, but there's a way to marry the two so that you can continue on your trajectory of your goals, but then also feel comfortable in your own skin. Braids are absolutely encouraged. You can absolutely wear braids. You can absolutely wear natural hair. There's nothing wrong with that. In your interview process, I would just encourage you to just think about, what is your goal? What's your long-term goal? You're not dressing for the role you have today. You're dressing for the role you want in the future.
Okay, and if it applies, how do you address coworkers who want to touch your hair or have questions about your hair length, color, or texture?
I have had someone who wanted to touch my hair before, and that was an interesting conversation, but I kept it very professional. I just simply said, that's not okay. And you absolutely need to feel comfortable setting boundaries,
Right.
regardless of what space you're in and who you're speaking with. Whether it's a manager or a manager's manager, it's absolutely okay for you to say very directly, very plainly, that's not okay. And if you want to go a step further, I encourage you to speak with human resources.
As for me, no, you cannot touch my hair. That's my personal space. You have your personal space, I have mine. I am not going to walk up to you and ask you, can I touch your hair, about your makeup or anything else, unless I'm going to give you a compliment. No. No, I'm not going to allow you to touch my hair.
Okay, and what are some of the disparities you believe you encountered, such as pay, position, or people questioning your decision, like up until the point you started to the career you're at now?
That's a big question. Can you say that one more time? I'm sorry.
What are some of the disparities you believe you encountered, such as pay, position, and people questioning your decision?
You want to take that?
Okay. Let's start at pay. As being a public servant, I'm a public servant. I'm not a politician. There's a difference between the two. A politician is a political figure who's after just a job. A public servant is a person who works in the community to uplift the community and engage the community. That's what I am, a public servant. As far as pay, being the mayor of Ferguson, the pay is not great. I only make $350 a month. I'm not there for the pay. It is very obvious. I'm not there for the pay, simply because I resigned my full-time position as a Mary Kay sales director, producing over $238,000 a year in production, giving up a company car, giving up diamond rings and trips. So apparently the community is more important to me than it is pay. Now, when I say pay, when I was your age, I worked. So when you get my age, you can make a decision whether or not you're going to retire or you're going to resign from a position, because you have the financial wherewithal to do it. And I say that very plainly because people are right now saying, oh, how did mayor make money? How is she living? I worked. And I came from a family is that when you make money, you don't spend every dime you have. You save so when you get to a point in your life that you feel like you can retire or do the things you want to do in life, that's what you do, because you had paid your dues when you were younger. So there's no money in being a public servant in the city of Ferguson. I make $350 a month. The city council people make $250 a month. And one person asked one of the council ladies, did you quit your job? She's like, why would I quit my job for $250 a month? So it's a service that you're rendering to your community. Nobody is going to do that. In addition to that, disparities, it's a lot of it. It's a lot of people saying and doing ugly things towards you, but you have to decide why you are there. No, you're not going to take people insults. Somebody, someone say something to me that is out the way and I think it's an insult, I immediately say something back to them. One council person said I was gaslighting. I say, no, I wouldn't consider that gaslighting. If you say shade in the black community, you shade me, I'm going to shade you back. Believe me, I will. But it's far as men concerned, my counterparts as mayors, some men are very receptive to the point that Ferguson has a female as the mayor, and some men are not. I can't control how they feel. I only can control how I interact with the various people that I come in contact with. It is very important that you know why you are there. You know that the service that you're rendering is for a purpose. And so it gets very hectic. It can get downright very ugly, but you don't have to in other words, you don't have to react. Just be who you are and know whose you are. And that'll take you much, much, much further in life than trying to respond to everything that somebody say about you negative. And I tell a lot of people, if I stop because you said something negative about me, then I have to turn around and address you. That means I'm not going anyplace. And I always said, if people say something negative about you, they are behind you and not in front.
So I'll start with the pay piece as well. It's very important that you do your research when you start applying for positions. You need to be very clear about the industry that you're applying for and what the industry typically pays before you get to that discussion with human resources. Do your homework and know what you bring to the table and know what your worth is. It is absolutely okay to negotiate. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise. If you receive an offer that you're not comfortable with, absolutely say, thank you for that offer. I'm super excited to join your company, but I really would be more interested in a salary of X. One of two things is going to happen. They're going to go back and speak to the hiring manager, and they're either going to come back with the offer you wanted or a counter offer, or they'll come back and say, we're not able to offer you that at this time. But you will always have the opportunity to either move forward or reject the offer. So it's very important that you take the time to do your homework and your due diligence before you get into the salary conversation so that you feel comfortable with the decision that you made to accept that offer. If you have a thought like, well, I'll take this offer now and maybe it'll increase later, that's not the correct approach. Get your money up front all the time. Companies are trying to start doing a better job with pay equity. There are a lot of institutions that have shared outwardly with the communities that they've done analysis and market research and have made adjustments. But depending on the organization you're with, they could be a little bit behind the curve. So it's important to already have a number in mind before you go into that conversation. Touching on the equity piece and working with individuals that may not want to accept your feedback, I took my first VP role when I was 28 years old. And I had a lot of direct reports that were much more senior than me and a lot more tenured. But just like Ella said, you have to know the reason why you're in the role, and you have to be comfortable and confident in your abilities, because there are going to be people who will challenge you, and that's okay. It is about your response. If you have someone who's not interested in listening to what you have to say, or they constantly want to try to maybe front you in front of your peers, you need to have a conversation one-on-one with them to the side. I typically never engage a person in front of an audience because that's typically exactly what they're looking for, but rather just say, can we take this offline? And follow up with them one-on-one and say, you know, I'm noticing that we're having a little bit of challenges being on the same page. Let's talk about that. If you're not able to resolve it, then you may have to get either your manager or supervisor involved. If it goes a little bit further, then you might need to get human resources involved. But it's not okay to accept anyone's challenges to you and to make you feel uncomfortable in your role, and you do need to address it head on. I have oftentimes helped my employees address challenges who come to me and say, I'm having a challenge with someone on the team, can you help me? Absolutely. But I always ask them, what is the result you're looking for? Because I always want to understand what is the outcome they're seeking before I go into any discussions, recognizing that it could turn into an uncomfortable situation. But I always follow through and I always support my team.
Okay. And I would like to highlight, I just wanted to highlight that Mayor Jones is one of the few elected officials that's a woman, and she's the first African-American woman for Ferguson. The next question is, how do you handle discrimination and microaggressions, you know, in a workplace?
That's another whole.
Microaggressions, I'm sorry.
Oh my goodness. So that is a challenging one. And again, I'm familiar with microaggressions in the workplace. The challenge with the corporate space is that your response is everything, because someone may say something to you and it's easy for them to say, oh, I didn't know that that's what I was doing, or oh, I didn't realize you would take it that way, and they put it back on you, right? So you really want to think about what your response would be in that situation. Try to remain calm. Again, just like my previous response, try to have a conversation with that person one-on-one. If they've said something to you that has offended you, it's absolutely okay for you to say, you know, that comment you made earlier, I don't know if you realized how that sounded, but let me help you understand how I received it, right? Because your viewpoint is valid and you need to acknowledge the fact that you felt uncomfortable with that comment. If that person is not willing to accept that, then I would not suggest that you continue to push forward, but rather go and get your manager involved. Because what you don't want to have happen is a he said, she said that ends up escalating. And then something in turn in your response also puts you in a space where now the leadership team is not sure which direction to go next. If you need to get HR involved, then that is also a next step. The biggest message I can give you, though, is that your perspective matters and your viewpoint matters, and how you felt about a scenario needs to be acknowledged. And if you don't feel comfortable handling it yourself, go to your supervisor and say, this just happened, and I don't feel comfortable, and I would like this addressed.
Dealing with citizens, it's a little bit different. It's a little different because a citizen will call you and they're hollering at the top of their lungs that they have a pothole sitting in front of their driveway. It becomes your responsibility to let them vent. The worst thing I've found that when people try to interrupt someone who has already thought it out, they know what they're gonna say, how they're gonna say it, and the minute you pick up the phone, they're ready to blast. So I just let them blast. I just let them talk. And when they talk it out, I just simply ask them, now, what's really the problem? What do you really want to talk to me about? And they you have to defuse people. Immediate say, oh, Mayor, I'm just so upset I got a pothole. I said, well, okay, call Public Works, talk to the Public Works director, and they will come out and fix your pothole. If it is not done in the next couple of weeks, give me another call, and I'll see what I can do. Being a mayor, being a council person, we are always getting the brunt of how people feel, especially when your dog, you let your dog out your house without a leash, and they go poop on your neighbor's yard, and you don't go pick it up. They call us to resolve it, when easily that you should be able to have a relationship with your neighbor where, number one, you have to follow the rules of the city, and you're not supposed to let your dog run loose. If you let your dog run loose and he poops on your neighbor's yard, it becomes your responsibility to go out there and pick it up. And most people, when you explain things to them, they seem to come from a 10 down to a 1. And, oh, I didn't know we have laws governing things like that. As far as getting into council people, we do talk, but one thing we have learned, and we stress with each other, it's okay to disagree with one another, but you don't have to be disagreeable. And we have some heated arguments, but when we get finished, we all on the same page, because we have to realize that we were not elected for ourselves, but we were elected to represent the people. And the best decisions that we can make is for the people.
Okay, and what's the balance between work and personal life for you guys?
I'm a shopaholic. You have to keep a balance, because if you don't, you'll take your work home with you, and your family will be upset, and because you giving work more attention than what you do your family. You have to carve out that time for yourself. You have to do something that makes you feel good. And you have to reward yourself. I don't care if it's just going to Macy's and just buying a sweater or something. You have to reward yourself. You have to make yourself feel good, because when you live it out, then you're allowing people to see that the things that you say to yourself are not exactly how you want to project yourself. So find something that makes you happy. I enjoy shopping. I go shopping with my girlfriends. I love to fish. When I find someone to go fishing, I go fishing. I just do a lot of things that make me happy. On Friday, I turn my computer off. I don't turn it on again until Monday. If it's serious enough, the city manager or the police, they're going to call me or either text me. You have to set your own boundaries. No one is going to set them for you. I don't take calls after 10 o'clock at night. Anyone that calls me at after 10 o'clock at night, they know to call a different telephone number. But for as the number that I use for the city, no, you don't call me after 10 o'clock, because that's my time. And if you don't carve out time for yourself, you will get sick, and you won't be good for yourself and no one else.
Yeah, that's a very valid point there. So in the corporate space, I'm going to start off by saying it depends. My strongest recommendation is, when you're in the interview process, is to ask the hiring manager, how do they define work-life balance? It's very important for you to understand what your manager thinks of work-life balance, so that you can make an informed decision going into the position. You will have some managers who are huge about it. I am one of them. I encourage my staff not to work long days and on weekends, and they need to log off. But there are other managers who have that expectation. They expect you to be available to them, and they will email you at different times of the day. So you have to ask that question in the interview process in order to understand, going in, what does my manager expect from me? As far as defining that yourself, you absolutely have to do that. I do not work late nights, and I do not log in on the weekend. And my manager and I have a clear understanding of that expectation. But that is something that I had to set the boundary for. I can absolutely start working until 7, 8 o'clock at night, but then it becomes an expectation that I'm going to do that. So you have to think about the expectation you're also setting on yourself when you're in that space. And if it's not something that you want to do, then be careful not to start that so that people begin expecting it from you. But going in, have a clear discussion with your manager. You might have some projects that will cause you to have to work late from time to time, but you don't want it to be an everyday expectation of your life.
Okay, and we're going to take some questions from the audience.
All right. What was something you both had to learn to become the person you are today? What was something both of you had to learn to become the person you are today?
So,
me?
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
You sure? Okay. So, for me, I started in an entry-level position, but I knew that I wanted to be in senior leadership. And one of the things that I had to learn that was very difficult for me was that transition from employee to leader. The friends that I had and went to lunch with, I could no longer do that. And that was a hard transition for me. And I had to learn how to navigate that space. I had to learn how to say, we're still on great terms, but I'm not available to go to lunch because I had to change and shift the people around me in the workspace in order to get the respect that I needed in order to do my job. So that was a very hard lesson for me early on because I was still in my 20s when I started transitioning into leadership, but I wasn't going to be able to do the things that I did as a collection specialist or as a call center agent because now I was one of the managers. And I had to make sure that my team members around me understood that I was transitioning into a new role, and I had to make that change. So that was a difficult situation for me, but it was very necessary in order for me to be successful.
For me, being a leader, a servant leader, pastor in a church, entrepreneur, I had to learn how to listen. You don't have to always have the answer. Learn how to listen because people are going to talk to you and tell you how to treat them. You have to listen for the clues that people share with you when they talk to you. And sometimes that's all they want you to do is listen to them and just don't say anything. So I learned how to listen, and listening makes a big difference because it could change a person's attitude. It could change the way in which they strike out. It's just listening. That's all it is. To me, it's just listening and not have to be the one to always provide an answer.
Ms. Mayor, thank you for being here. Been a North County resident for 18 years, and I love Ferguson. I shop there and I eat there. My question is, and it's kind of ironic mentioning this as Russia invaded Ukraine, but I'm wondering some of these small towns that are right next to Ferguson, if Ferguson would be stronger if it was even bigger. That is, if maybe some of them would be willing to come into the fold of Ferguson city limits. Have they been asked, have you had informal discussions or anything you want to say on that subject?
What are you talking about is, are you talking about merging the cities? No, that will not happen. And I say that because St. Louis County has 92 municipalities, and each municipality just about have their own mayor. They have their own government. They have their own police department. Some of them have fire department they come together, but no. Delwood, Ferguson is surrounded by Cool Valley, Delwood, Moline Acres, and Florissant. The largest municipality in North County is Florissant with 50,000 citizens. The second largest municipality in North County is Hazelwood with 25,000 people. And the third largest municipality in North County is Ferguson with 18,000 people. Now just imagine trying to get those three top municipalities trying to merge to one. That's not going to work. Even Delwood has 5,000 people, but no. Only municipality that has ever merged with another municipality is Veneta Village, I think, with Veneta Terrence. I think those two was the only two that ever talked about merging, but most of the municipalities are very independent. We work together, but we're not going to merge.
Do you guys ever feel like in your role that you are carrying a weight for like all Black women, or that you have to represent Black women in general in your positions?
Yes,
I know I do.
Yeah. So direct answer, yes. Oftentimes, similar to today, you might be the only person in the room. You may be the only person of color. You may be the only woman in the room. And so oftentimes you do feel pressure to represent yourself in a way because you want to encourage the leadership to give more of us a chance. And that is oftentimes in the back of your mind. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to do a great job so that I can set an example that there should be more of us in the room. I mean, the unfortunate thing about life is that assumptions are made very easily. And oftentimes, if you play into those assumptions, it will result in a negative outcome. And so I do feel pressure oftentimes to be at my best self 100% of the time. Now, that's exhausting, and I have been exhausted. And only here recently in the last several years have I become more comfortable not being perfect and allowing myself to make mistakes and allowing myself to say, you know what, I don't have the answer, and it's okay not to have the answer. Oftentimes, other people in the room don't have the answer either. And so you don't need to put that level of pressure on yourself, and I encourage everyone not to, because in that case, you will burn yourself out, and then you won't be at your best self. You want to represent your best self for yourself.
Being a black woman and being the first black woman to be mayor of Ferguson, it comes with the pressure automatically. I knew what I was getting into when I signed up for it. The key to all of this, I believe, in being a woman in politics, and we have a lot of women who are now running for offices, you need a mentor. You need someone that you can call and talk to and let them know how you feeling. And so, as being a black woman and being a lot of things are expected of me because of the position I hold, but it's okay because I decided that I was going to do this, and I knew what it was going to entail. However, the best way to get through it is having a mentor. And I have a mentor, and I mentor someone. So we all the women in politics, we either a mentor or mentoree. And it makes a big difference. So when we all get together at different political events, we still can laugh and enjoy each other, knowing that I just talked to you last night, and I needed you to help me to make a pressing decision. But long as we have that camaraderie and we have built that relationship with one another, it's okay to have that a level of expectation put on your life.
Okay, would anyone else like to ask a question?
Thank you, Mike. Oh, we do have another question. Yay, good.
To kind of follow up with the last topic, how do you persevere or like keep your motivation even through being discriminated against or, talked about? How do you just persevere through that? I know you say you have a mentor. You mentioned, knowing what to say, when to say it. What else can you add to that?
Well, for me, as being a mayor, negative articles are printed every day. I have to decide within myself that I'm going to allow outside influences guide me or what I have decided to do with the position that I was elected to do. So it's basically who you be. And I say that because a lot of people say who you are, but it's really who you be. Who I am determines how I take that role of mayor and work it within that role. I have a lot of people say, Ella has taken the role of mayor and made it full-time. No, I have not. I have taken the role of mayor and engaged and built relationship that requires me to interact with more people in order for my city to come out of the strain of 2014. If there's no one who's advocating for my city, that's my job. And if I have to build relationships with people who you feel I shouldn't have a relationship with, but I know it's going to help my city to grow, I'm going to build that relationship, because it's all about the role, who I am, who I be, in order to make the city becomes that community that everyone would like to live, work, and play in. So, like I say before, you can't focus on the negativity because you're going to stop and turn around. But if you know your role and what you're supposed to be doing and how you embrace it, then everything else falls in place.
So there's a couple of different things that I use to help me persevere. One of them, as Ella mentioned, is having a mentor, someone who you can talk to about your challenges and have that support. The other thing is having a sponsor. Now, a mentor and a sponsor are two different things, because a sponsor is someone who will be supportive of you when you're not in the room. They will speak your praises to other people. And when you have these individuals in place, it allows you to have a support system in place so that you can lean on them. The other thing is to understand what your motivation is for the role, as Ellen mentioned. If it's financial or if it's personal, define what that is. What is the reason you took this position for? Is it a stepping stone to another position, or did you just take a job? Because if you just took a job, you're not going to stay motivated. It will be easy for you to say, I don't need this and I'm leaving. But if you know that it's a stepping stone to something else that's on your vision board that you have goals for, it'll be a little bit easier to stay motivated to stay in that space. The other piece is professional development. Even after school, you have to continuously grow and develop as a person. I still take leadership courses. I still enroll in different developmental classes to keep myself sharp. And not only that, it helps me to expand my network with other like-minded individuals. All of those individuals in your circle will help keep you motivated to keep going.
I just want to add something else very good. I was told a long time ago, the 5 people you hang around with, you become just like them. Select the 5 people you want to interact with. Mm-hmm. And I was talking to the city clerk the other day. If you are a 10, then try to hang around with 11s and 12s. Because if you're a 10 and you hang around with a 1, mm-hmm. you're not going to get anywhere. Mm-mm. So you become like the 5 people you hang around with.
Yeah. And one more to add on the mentor piece and the hanging with the groups. Ask for a mentor. Mm-hmm. You would be surprised how many people do not ask to be mentored or to even meet with someone in senior leadership. I don't often have a lot of people who will come to me and say, can I have a little bit of your time? Can I talk to you about a challenge I'm having? And I even thought the same thing until one day I stopped a senior leader in the hallway and said, do you mind if I get just a half an hour of your time on your calendar? And he said, absolutely. And when we met, he said, you know, no one ever asked me to meet with me. It's okay to do that. Do not feel intimidated by someone because they're a senior level than you. Most oftentimes, leaders love having these types of discussions. It's the highlight of their day. And if you reach out to someone who doesn't respond, then that's not someone you wanted to be mentored by in the first place.
All right. Do you have any last remarks that you want to share with our audience, ladies?
I think for me, I mean, you know, my road to the position that I had was not an easy one. And I don't want anyone to think that I just walked out of college and walked into this position. It took a very long time for me to progress to the role that I have today. But I did have goals set for myself, and I stayed focused on those goals. And throughout the years, friendships have gone away. I've gained new friends. You just cannot be afraid to grow and to allow yourself to change. And it's oftentimes very easy for people to say, you're different, you've changed. It's not that you're different or that you've changed to the negative, but you've grown to the positive. And oftentimes people cannot go with you on that journey. And if that person has reached their path ending for you, that is okay. Do not be afraid to continue to move forward toward the goals and the dreams that you want to achieve, because in the end, you're the only one that has to be accountable to yourself.
I just would like to share with you, know what you want. Know what you want and be willing to do the work to get it. And as I share with my daughter, you don't have to be jealous of anyone. If you want what someone else has, go tap them on the shoulder. Ask them, how did you get to where you are today? And when they share that information with you, then you have to decide, are you going to be willing to do the same amount of work and may do more and put your spin on it in order to achieve what that person has achieved? So just know what you want and be willing to do the work to get it. That's it.
All right, let's give them a round. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Again, I want to highlight that these two women are Florissant Valley alum. So know that you're following some pretty big footsteps, and they sat in the seats where you are. So we're proud of that, and we're proud of them. All right, thanks everybody for coming. If you are in my class, please make sure you sign the attendance. And if you're not in my class, but you're getting extra credit for being here, sign the attendance sheet with your name and your professor's name. If you're from one of my other classes, sign your class next to your name. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.